Hey everyone, welcome back to the Boom Boom Room. I'm your host Ashes, and I got my good friend here, EJ. He's a paranormal investigator. He's been doing it around 19 plus years, and he's going to share some of his stories and stuff pertaining to that. But EJ, you want to give us a quick little brief bio about yourself,
I
and then
uh,
you can get into the investigation.
I grew up in Wisconsin. I've lived here all my life, really, except I spent 1998 through 99 in Memphis. We lived down south for a year. My oldest kid was actually born in Memphis, so she's got that story kind of to tell.
That's
And
cool.
yeah, otherwise, I've been in Wisconsin, pretty close to the border of Illinois, actually, in a couple of cities called West Dallas. I grew up in a small city called Bayview, and but yeah, been a Wisconsinite pretty much all my life.
Roger that, Roger that. But yeah, I've been really intrigued. I haven't really ever talked to anybody about the paranormal investigations and what goes on and kind of what you do and what happens. But if you want to kind of give us a example or situation or ever how you want to tell us about that, really interested. I don't know where to start. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But
Well, I can start with my start. What's really funny is I actually started with UFOs
really.
back in, back 19 years ago, like a lot of people. I was a big X Files fan. And I looked into MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network,
Uh-huh.
and I contacted the branch here in Wisconsin and told them, hey, I'm interested in getting into this, and they sent me a copy of the field investigators training manual, and you had to do all this stuff in the manual. Then you had to take a test, and some gentleman from my area contacted them, and they said, hey, contact this guy. This is the kind of questions you'll ask, and get as much detail from him as you can. So I tried calling this guy
Yeah.
like 4 times, and he just never answered. I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I want to do this. And it just seems like every time he just didn't want to talk about what he experienced.
Yeah.
And right around the same time, a lady she had a group called the Greater Milwaukee Paranormal Research Group. And her and the gentleman who founded it had a falling out and they split. She kept that name and he went on to found his own group. And so I was the first person she kind of interviewed to start this new group.
Uh-huh.
And that's how it started. That's how I started 19 years ago.
So I mean,
And what's
what
really
what what basically intrigued you to get into it? I mean, what you know?
well, I think, it's it's kind of weird. It's going to sound weird, but I actually got into this to disprove all of this, right? Because there was these,
Yeah.
ghost hunters, ghost adventures were on at the time, and it really irked me.
Yeah.
These people are making money and they get to go to all these different places and they never prove anything. Sure, a couple of noises, and then they play you this audio clip and they tell you what it says, and then as soon as they tell you, you hear it, right?
Yep.
I'm like, this is all nonsense. This is crazy. So that was my intention when I started, to just kind of disprove all of this because it was crazy. And the first couple of investigations that I did with
Yep.
GMPRG, it was a couple of houses and nothing happened. It was very boring and sitting in an empty room asking questions nobody answers, just like you would think it would be. And then, so let's say I do a let's say I do a 5-hour investigation.
Uh-huh.
At the very least, I'm running 3 audio recorders, a camera, so that at least one camera. So that's the very least. So you spend 5 hours doing investigations, and then that's 20 hours of real time review I have to do. Because you can't cheat. If you're gonna cheat,
Yeah.
why even do it? So I spend another 15 hours listening to empty rooms with nothing going on.
Yeah, it seemed like
And I think,
it'd get a little boring, if
yeah,
something wasn't
and that's
going
the
on.
thing. That's the thing TV shows don't cover is the
Yeah.
hours and hours and hours you just spend listening to an audio recorder or watching a camera in an empty room do nothing for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. And you have to love what you're doing, otherwise you'll
Oh
go
yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Because
I
it's
bet
just a
so.
grind.
Kind of puts me in mind of hunting too. You're a hunter. You got
Sure.
to
Or
sit out
fishing,
there.
yeah, if you're not
Yeah.
catching anything.
Yeah. And
So then, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, a lot of the Bigfoot researchers. I watch a lot of those guys, and gonna have hopefully have one on next week. Interview him, but it's a lot of patience. You gotta love it. Like you said, you gotta love it. But what was the first time that you really, heard anything, or have you seen anything physically?
That's what, yeah, brings me to
Mm-hmm.
what I was going to talk about.
Okay.
We had an opportunity to investigate a hospital that had shut down here in Wisconsin, and they were going to change it into like assisted living or something
Yeah.
to that effect. And we were the only people to be able to go inside this hospital. And I'm like, oh yay! Instead of a house, it's going to be a huge hospital with nothing going on. And it was a ways from
Yeah.
where I was living. So me and my friend Chrissy, we hop in the van, got all the equipment. We're driving up there, and if you pull up to this place, Ashes, and it
Yeah.
was so cliche for what a haunted building should look like. All
Yeah.
brick, windows missing. I'm like, oh, jeez. So we get there and meet up with the rest of the team, and I think there was about 10 of us I think 10 or 12 of us. And it was a huge hospital, so we were never running into each other or, messing up each other's investigations.
Yeah.
And I went in there with a very nothing's going to happen attitude. And me and Chrissy were on the second floor because one of the claims of the people who were kind of, doing the demolition or whatever, they would see shadows move across the hallway from room to room.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, Chrissy, what we're going to do is we're going to take this chair, we'll set it up on one side of the hallway, we'll set a flashlight on the chair, and we'll move to the other side of the hallway. And that way, we'll shoot it with the camera, and if something moves, it'll block out the light, right? And we set it up high, so when a rat or nothing like that would block the light because it was on a chair. Ashes, me and Chrissy set this flashlight down, and we're walking to the other end of the hallway.
Uh-huh.
Clearly hear somebody walking behind us. You can hear steps in the dirt and the glass. And we both turn around. Nothing's there.
Yeah.
And I am a diehard skeptic. Always have been and always will be, really. And I looked at her. I'm like, you heard that, right? So we walked to the other end of the hallway, and you heard noises the whole time. Nothing ever blocked the flashlight out. So we were kind of caught off guard by the noises that we were hearing. So every once in a while, everybody switches what part of the hospital we're in. So Chrissy and I get down to the morgue, and this is an old hospital. In the basement, the basement was underground. You cannot see your hand in front of your face. So we're trying to move around with flashlights, and I lay on one of the body drawer tables.
Yeah.
I'm just laying there. I'm running my audio recorder, and I swear I hear people whispering in my ear, and I hear tapping on the not the table I was laying on, but like on the sides of the drawer. Like,
damn.
oh my freaking God. This is
Wow.
crazy. And again, I'm trying in my head. I'm not thinking, oh my God, it's a ghost.
Yeah.
My brain's trying to process what's making these noises. And so we get done, and then me, Chrissy and two sets of people, so it was 6 of us. We're all sitting on this counter behind what was probably like a nurse's station or information desk or whatever. Most of it was missing, but the wall was kind of still there. All 6 of us are sitting there, clearly hear 2 ladies carrying on a conversation just on the other side of that wall.
Wow.
Clear as day. And then it was an old hospital, so it still had those round metal speakers hanging from the wall. You could hear voices in those speakers. The elevator doors dinged like they were going to open, and there's no power to this building. So everything we had to use, we had to run off battery packs, or it had to be battery operated.
So what was the history of the building? I mean,
it was just a normal hospital. Yeah. From as far as I know, it wasn't like a sanatorium or a sanitarium or anything like that. As far as I know, it was just a normal hospital. And to this day, it is the only place where I've ever been where every single person had something happening to them at that hospital.
Man, that's crazy. That is nuts and crazy. Wow. So you think, is that basically your first investigation that something happened, or the one that, stuff happened the most?
Yeah. So yeah, and like that hospital was the very first time every single person that was there had something happen. Everybody came away with stories. And that was the turning point for me, where I'm like, maybe there's actually something.
It's real. Yeah. Well, I mean, you hear with a lot of things that happen, encounters and paranormal stuff, your mind automatically tries to rational,
Yep.
Well, it's this, it's that, it's built in us, our brain to do that and to try to ration out, because, stuff you see or hear is not supposed to be there, this in the regular world. And
I was still very new at this, so like I said, it was the first really big location we were ever at. And that whole ride home, me and Chrissy were nonstop talking because we were walking through the hall and she sees a shadow and it startled her so much. She jumped into me and then I flew into the wall.
Wow.
And, Chrissy's just she's one of the toughest people I know. And for her to jump like that, I know she saw something. And again, the stories I share with you, the biggest thing in the paranormal is credibility, man.
Yeah.
If you lose it, you never get it back. And I am so reluctant to put anything out as evidence, an audio clip, a picture I took, even a personal story. I never like to say this is evidence of what happened. I just gotta say this is what I experienced, draw your own conclusion. So I would never embellish, I would never lie, I would never tarnish what I do by lying about what had happened to me. Well, and that hospital was insane. Dang. And then, so I get home and I'm still wired, so I couldn't sleep that day because I think we got home at like 4:30 in the morning. And I couldn't sleep that day. So the following night, I go to sleep. And I have this dream where I'm back in the hospital. And I'm following something through the hospital. And it pushes open a double door. And I follow it. And it pushes open a double door. And I follow it. And then the double door opens towards me. And like this hand, paw, whatever you want to say, swings at me. And like hits me. And I fly backwards, and then I pop up in bed. I'm like, oh my god! So I'm like freaking out.
So like you felt it in your dream, didn't you?
Yeah. Wow. Yes. So it kind of shook me out of bed. So I get up, and I think we did that. So this would have been Sunday night. So it's Monday. I got to go to work. I'm like, I'm just gonna get up and shower.
Mm-hmm.
So I get up and shower, Ashes, and there's 3 scratches that run from rib cage to rib cage all the way across my chest.
My God, dude, I would have freaked. I'm not lying.
And
That would have freaked me out big
again,
time.
I'm looking and I'm like, how did I do this? I must have did this in my sleep. But then I was sleeping in a t-shirt. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
really must have dug into my. So I didn't know what those were from. And they weren't like normal scratches because they took forever to heal. And the whole week after that investigation, everywhere I went, when I was at work, when I was at home, if I was at the store, I swear it felt like somebody was right behind me, almost on top of me.
Wow.
It didn't matter where I was. I had this feeling like somebody's right on top of me, watching me, following me, everything I did. And two of the people that were in the group with us, they had Native American heritage. And they did this smudging thing over me, and then I was fine.
Wow. So you think something followed you from the hospital?
I think so. Yeah, and like I said, I was still very new, and since then, I've learned a lot about things you should do before you go into a place and after you come out. And since then, I've never had an issue where I thought something followed me home. But yeah, that hospital was the turning point. And then
wow.
After that hospital, of course, then I'm always chasing, the next big piece of evidence or the next thing, when's our next big building, and
well, have you ever physically, like seen something, a ghost or apparition or something demonic?
In the 19 years that I've been doing this, I've seen, stuff out of the corner of my eyes. I've heard more things than I could tell you about. Footsteps, voices that I would follow, and then all of a sudden they'd be somewhere else.
Yeah.
But as far as seeing anything, only one time. And this happened 2 years ago at the Sheboygan Falls Asylum here in Wisconsin. And he rents it out for investigations, and I think a TV show or two has been in that building. But I knew someone who was a tour guide there. Actually, two of the people that the night we did this investigation are tour guides there. So they got us in, and we had the building just to ourselves, us, the four of us. And my friend Gail and I are on the bottom floor in the room where they used to do hydrotherapy and electroshock therapy to patients. And there's a little half wall, and I have this bear where if you squeeze the belly, it lights up or plays music, makes noise.
Yeah.
I'm setting this bear on the half wall, and I set a recorder next to it. And I turned to my left, which was looking back out into the hallway, and there's a nurse standing in the doorway, Ashes.
Wow.
Not foggy, not see-through. It looked like a person. Solid, whole, standing in the doorway.
Was it wearing modern clothes or
nope.
a certain era?
No, it looked like an older type nurse. They weren't scrubs. It looked more like, kind of like a skirt and a nurse's outfit.
Wow.
And I slowly turned away, and I turned to Gail, and I'm like, Gail, I think my eyes are... She said, nope, there's somebody in the doorway.
Wow.
And like I said, there was only four of us there. Me, Gail, and Nikki, and Sarah. And Nikki and Sarah were still upstairs getting stuff ready.
Well, when
the building was locked down, there's no way there was anybody else in.
Well, when things happen like that, like I said, your mind tries to rational, and because I've had things happen to me. I'll give one example. Because this podcast, this episode's about you, but I'll give one brief thing that happened to me. And it wasn't really me. It happened to somebody that I knew. You don't mind if I tell that real quick, do you?
Oh, of course. Go ahead.
Okay. My ex-girlfriend, we lived in a house in the city, and we had like a fenced-in backyard. Well, she had a friend that she knew for years. She grew up with, and I'm not going to say her real name. I'll just say her name's Betty. and she was written. She had a little camper, an RV, you know, in the back, and she had written it, and she was staying there, you know, paying us rent, not much at all, and she'd always act weird, you know what I mean? And I could tell something was off with her, you know. But the backyard was fenced in, and we didn't have a back door. You'd have to walk around the fence, you know, and then walk into the front porch and come in the house. That's how she would get there. But long story short, she was, you know, I don't hide my beliefs, you know. I'm a Christian, and you know, I'm not perfect, you know. I'm getting all that, but she was, her back was hurt, and saying, "Said, come here, Betty, and let me pray for you." And she looked at me, her eyes got real big, and she's like, her voice changed, and she said no, and she ran out the house. But I'm just going to tell you what happened. There's more stories of that. I'll have to tell it later time. My my ex-girlfriend, her nephew was staying with us, and it was, I was early morning, about 8 o'clock, you know, it's early for me. He runs in the house, he starts screaming, you know, he would call me uncle, even though I wasn't married to his aunt. Uncle, you got to come here, Betty. I'm saying, man, what is up? So I get up, walk outside, and on the porch, there's droplets of blood. And I'm looking, and I see this blood trail that goes all the way from the back to the porch, all the way to the side of the house, all the way leaning. And then I start seeing like puddles, and it looked, I don't know, it's just weird looking, you know, puddles. I mean, start saying, oh my God, you know, somebody's bleeding. I thought somebody that fell, cut themselves or something. So this little camper, it's about 26 foot. And I walked there, and I said, what's going on? And she threw the door open, and she said, I cut my tongue, and there's blood coming all from her mouth, dude, all running down, you know, herself. Well, I thought she done, I don't know, eating something, glass or something. And I look in the camper, I'm kind of getting ahead of the story, and then they had a little sink right there close by the door, and it was about a quarter full of blood. It was like coagulated blood. And then they had another sink in the bathroom. Those campers are small. Well, I seen right there like a paring knife with blood on it. And then I seen a box cutter, you know what I mean?
Oh.
I mean, there's blood all in this camper, and like I said, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. There was a pillow, and there was like chunks of flesh, you know. So I'm thinking, I said, well, what happened? You know, Betty, voices told her that if she didn't cut her tongue out, that they were going to kill all her kids. So she took and her eye. She took a spoon, was trying to take her eye out, and she told me it was too painful later on, but she took the paring knife, and I guess she started cutting her tongue. And when she started cutting, I guess it was too dull, so she took a box cutter. It was barely hanging on, you know. I'm telling you, I've seen people get cut. I've been cut. It was like you see something on TV, like forensics. It blew my mind. So I got her, and I took her to the hospital, and then, you know, she got some help for a couple of months. You know, she went to I guess I don't know what you'd call it, you know, something mentally to help her. But here's the kicker. I end up moving. So she moved, you know, and at the time I moved on 3 acres of land out in the country, and I got stories about that. It was weird out in the country and in Arkansas, but some freaky stuff. But anyway, I'll sum it up real quick. We told her she could move out there, but at the time her boyfriend didn't want to move, so I didn't see her for 3 months. Next thing I know, she moved to a homeless shelter, and she went into the Arkansas River in the shallow part. It was like a foot of water in the winter time, and she drowned. She took her own life, man. And I mean, I look back, I regret it. I mean, I done what I could, but
Sure.
she was,
Yeah, there's only so much you
yeah,
can do.
but she was actually demonically possessed. You know,
Okay.
she had to be to tell if she voices would talk to her all the time. You know, to actually try to take a box cutter, man, and cut your freaking tongue out. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? There's
that's
something, you know, I mean, me personally, of like my beliefs, like I said, I won't get into it, you know, about that right now, but I think she's, you know, because it ain't always demonic. Me
sure.
with people, they actually have
Yeah, of course.
mental
Yeah, of
issues and
course.
stuff. Because you can't, you know, label everything. Well, that's demonic, you know, and
Yeah.
all this. Some people actually have mental issues, but
Oh, of course.
yeah, it was a sad situation. That's what I was getting into about the. Demons and ghosts and stuff. That was
Yeah.
probably one of the freakiest things. It shook me up, man, seeing that much blood. I mean, pieces of her tongue and everything like that. It was crazy, but you could give us another story, and maybe later on, man, if you want to come back too, I'd love to have you back on here and to tell some more stories, and I want to tell some stuff too, you know, compare war stories. But if you want to tell us another little situation you was in.
One of the other kind of turning points for me, I had never believed in psychic mediums at all.
Uh-huh.
To me, that just seemed kind of hokey. I thought it was a lot of parlor tricks and suggestive questioning and stuff like that. And then we did a case in Chicago close to Wrigley Field, or close to one of their baseball stadiums, whichever one has a statue of Ernie Banks up by it, because I remember seeing that statue. And really nice young couple. I don't want to use their names or anything.
Yeah.
And they honestly seemed terrified of what was going on in their house. You could sit down and talk to these people, and you knew that they were afraid and worried about what was going on.
Yeah.
So we do this case, and other people, they're talking to the couple, and I'm just walking around the apartment. It wasn't really huge, and I'm just kind of taking baseline temperature readings and EMF readings. And I get to their bedroom, and I couldn't tell you why, but I felt the need. I had to sit on the floor in their closet and do a quick little EVP session, just very generic. Is there anybody here? You know, very basic questions. So I do that, and nobody knew I did that. I didn't tell anybody I did that. I just, like I said, it was a feeling I had. So we do the initial investigation, initial review. The next time we go back, DW, one of the people in my group, invites a psychic medium to go with us. And she's walking around with me, and she said, "Oh, hey, I'm supposed to tell you thank you." And I don't know this lady from anybody else. And like, thank you for what? She said, the little boy that's here told me he wanted to thank you because last time you were here, you sat in the closet and you talked to him.
Wow.
Ashes, there was no way anybody knew I did that.
Really?
I didn't tell anybody. I had the only copy of that audio. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't share that audio. I didn't share it. There's no way she knew I did that.
Wow, that is crazy. That is
I couldn't.
nuts.
And then talking around, you know, walking around with her, because we went into the basement and so she could do her thing. And there were things she knew about me that she shouldn't have, you know, that I never told anybody. Things I had seen or heard growing up, and it was weird, man. So yeah, and then.
So what do you think? How do you think that works? You know, I got my own opinion on that.
I don't know. A lot of people say, you know, it's a thing result. It's a devilish thing. Some people say it's a gift. I don't know.
You know, I think personally that you know, my beliefs is we've got familiar spirits is what they're called, demonic entities that follow us, generations and generations. They know all about us, but I'm not saying all of that's demonic. I think that there's good and there's bad. You know what I'm saying? That's
Just
my
like
opinion.
in life with
Yeah.
normal people.
Yeah, I mean, because I think that maybe next time, you come, we can get into more. There's just so much to cover, man. There's just so much to talk
And
about on that subject.
another thing about that case, the one in Chicago,
Uh-huh.
that was another turning point for me where it stopped being about getting cool evidence and this and that.
Yeah.
It became about helping people for me because they were so afraid.
Yeah.
So since that day, I would much rather go to somebody's home and help them through what they're going through to go to like Waverly Hills or
Yeah.
Trans Allegheny or these big, huge, famous haunted places. I'd rather spend my time helping out somebody who's going through something they don't understand than walking around a big empty building, maybe catching a cool
Yeah.
picture of a ghost or this and that. I would
Yeah.
much rather be helping people. Recently, I've been in contact with a lady whose daughter was murdered,
Wow.
and this is very recently. And I want nothing else more than to help this lady, and that goes back to like I would never lie or fake evidence.
Yeah.
Like if I catch something on an audio recorder, I've been to her house once, and I'll be going back again soon. If I caught something, or I would never say, "Oh my God, this is your daughter," and
Yeah.
here this is. I would present it to her and let her come to a conclusion about that. Because how could you do that to somebody? That's one of the things that drives me nuts when people say, "Oh, I can talk to your father."
Oh
It
yeah,
just drives me nuts.
yeah,
man.
that's awful, man. People, do that.
People who grift off the
Yeah.
sorrow of others drives me nuts.
Yeah, man, it is crazy. But looky here, EJ. I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, absolutely.
Hopefully,
Of
I'd
course.
love to have you back on here, man. There's so much to cover, so much to talk about. But yeah,
Oh, for sure.
if you'd want to come back, I'd love to have you.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I got more stories to share. So yeah, I for sure come back whenever you like.
All right, man. I appreciate it. But everybody out there, watch this video. Appreciate you watching the Boom Boom Room, and we'll see you next episode, guys. Later.